Hey nerds! So I finally started raiding in Guild Wars 2 and did Wing 1 Veil Guardian. And that means that you'll actually have a legit raid group for NA and a legit raid leader. Anyway, I used to raid lead for World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV, so in this video I'm going to give my impression of how I liked the boss and the mechanics and the movement, as well as the combat and how fluid it was, and I'll also be comparing it to certain things that I liked about World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV, things I think could be better, things I think could be worse. If you like the content, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and applaud. I'll see you guys in the next one. So this footage is a little bit out of order, but the first thing that I really liked about Raid Wing 1 in Guild Wars 2 is that there was trash. That's one of the things that I loved about World of Warcraft, because all of the trash that happens before Veil Guardian, those three little mini-bosses, I believe red, green, and blue, actually have abilities that the boss does, and that's something that I missed from WoW when I had transferred to Final Fantasy XIV. Because for Final Fantasy XIV, there's Savage content, which is equivalent to about Mythic World of Warcraft, and is probably, in my opinion, a little bit tougher than regular raids and that aren't challenge modes in Guild Wars 2. Those don't actually have trash. You have to queue in for each boss, and the lockout is for each boss. So I really missed that. I loved this. I thought that was really cool, and I'm excited to see more. The short of it is that Guild Wars 2 raiding, at least the non-challenge mode kind, reminded me a lot of either Heroic or Mythic World of Warcraft, way more than Final Fantasy XIV. Oh crap, we didn't kill this guy, so we don't have a freaking safe haven for the ring. Yes. Whew, thank God. Oh my God. I only had one block. For those of you who don't know what was happening there, Elisande would spawn two different void creatures. One was a lighter pink, one was a darker purple. The darker purple would provide a slow, while the lighter pink would provide a haste, and they were these big orbs once you actually killed these ads. And the ring that came out for those orbs, if you essentially got hit by two hits, you would die, so they would just like skim over your character. And she would do two sets of those rings, and so I blocked for the first one because we didn't kill the ads. So when they drop those little orbs, essentially it takes longer for Elisande's ring of orbs to get through said slow, so you could kind of like wiggle your way through, and we didn't have that. And there's also another debuff after that that she plants on everyone, and you have to use those said orbs to manage when your debuff is going to expire to mitigate the healing, so not all of them expire on everyone at the same time and do raid-wide damage. The other thing that reminded me of Veil Guardian, and unfortunately I don't have footage for, is you would stack in these little puddles, and that would reduce damage taken. And if you already had one of the aforementioned debuffs that I talked about, you would have to run in and out of these little puddles to lessen them so that when they explode, they don't do a ton of raid-wide damage, and that reminded me of the green puddles in Veil Guardian.
On top of us.
The spirits should be impressed.
Oh, green it. There's a blue in the green.
These Seeker orbs reminded me a lot of the orbs from Elisande as well, although you had to knock them back rather than waiting around some kind of haste or slow orb. It was still really neat, and again reminded me more of World of Warcraft than Final Fantasy XIV. And finally, the mechanics that reminded me of Savage content in Final Fantasy XIV, and what made me love this first raid boss, because it was kind of a mix-up of the types of mechanics for both World of Warcraft and 14, and showed both difficulties, in my opinion, was the unstable magic spikes. So for those of you who don't know what those are, you can see these little AoEs pop up that have these blue goop, it almost looks like, in the middle. And there's a sound that goes off and your screen lights up if you're in them before they go off. And as far as I know, they're going to form to the closest people to the boss. So like if you're in melee range and you have like 4 people, that's usually where these blues spawn, and you can dodge to evade them, you can step out of them, and you could honestly just move or stay out of melee range to not get hit by them. And the only time that this differs and they're kind of all over the area is if there's one more set that's going to go off and you're heading over to the mini bosses that spawn for each pylon. For the ones that do condition damage, you have to strip boons and things like that. So for 14, there's a lot of movement-based fights for Savage. Again, they don't have any trash. You literally just queue in for the boss. And a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people only know the dance. So the strat behind the actual fight. They don't know the fight. And the fight never changes. It's always going to be the same abilities on a set time limit. And as long as you perform the dance well, you don't really have anything that's reactionary. As long as you do every single bit of movement, be in every single orb, be away from every single pillar or whatever, you will be able to down the boss with ease. My example of this is Savage Ramu. So that is E9S. It was from the 3rd tier of Eden Savage. And you can immediately see what I'm talking about, where there's everybody all over what looks like a grid. So for Final Fantasy, one of the big mechanics is usually if you touch the edges of the room, you die, or it's a platform that you can fall off. So essentially, you have to focus on all of your movement within said area. Usually it's either a circle, square, or rectangle, something like that. And if you run into the wall and die, it looks like this big highlighted kind of gate. And obviously for Ramu, you can just fall off, which multiple people did. Now, there's also this thunderstorm ability that you can see immediately, and what happens is ranged would have to bait these thunderstorms, and they would have to take them into the corners, or at least that was the strat that we knew. Melee would actually get hit with this debuff, and it would kind of paralyze them and make it so they couldn't move or attack every couple of seconds, so they would have to take that back into each thunderstorm and get rid of the debuff and then come back to the boss. Right after that, the boss would cast this knockback ability. And if you didn't have yourself positioned just right, you could get knocked back into the thunderstorms, which were still there. And if you got hit, you died. You could get knocked off the platform, which again is a legit platform. So if you got knocked off, you died. And a lot of people would use this anti-knockback ability. And so you would hit that at just the right amount when Ramu starts to come back after this wind swipe, and you wouldn't get knocked off, you wouldn't move at all. Another ability that you would have to deal with that I honestly think is a little bit different for Final Fantasy XIV, just movement-wise. Because the whole thing is a dance, it makes it so that each player has a lot more personal responsibility, in my opinion. Whilst I think both styles of raiding are fun, the proactive and the reactive, this was definitely a bit more challenging for me. So, especially to call out, not even like for me to do, but for me to call out, because it's one person makes a little mistake and your whole raid could wipe. For example, there's an ability called Furies 14, where a bunch of pillars come up and Ramu goes to one side of the room. So you're going to get hit by these lightning strikes, and instead of you getting hit, you have to conduct them. You have to make sure that the pillars actually don't conduct all of the lightning. So you have to stand in front of a pillar right when he does this knockback ability. You have to get knocked back into your pillar, and then you actually have to move all the way to the side because there's going to be other horses that try to trample you. So you're either going to miss your pillar, and if you do, the lightning goes the whole platform and kills everybody. Or if you don't miss your pillar and you forget to move at the end, even though you did that portion of the mechanic correctly, you and or a couple of other people could die from these horses. And for reses, you could res everybody. There isn't a down state in Final Fantasy XIV. You can continue to res people, but it costs a lot of mana for healers unless they use an LB3, and I could probably talk about that in a different video. But if you mess that up mechanic up, it could be bad. Another mechanic is called Chain Lightning, and so what would happen is a debuff would go out on the melee that is closest to the boss. So 2 of these Chain Lightnings that look like little lightning bolts between players will come out. You would have a melee that was stationed on either side of the boss. You'd have a healer to the right or left of this little group, and then you would have a ranged, normally physical range, so that you could move all the way in the back. The physical range would have to run up to the melee and take this lightning bolt. If you got too close, you both died, and it actually goes off for 3 turns, so you could kill your whole party if you go too close. If you're too far away, the lightning bolt won't hit you and continue on to the next player. So you die, and then it'll just continue hitting the person that it's already on, and then your whole group will probably die because it keeps going. And it's kind of like that. So there's a lot of things that you have to worry about, and those are just little examples, but I'll let you guys see a little bit more of the fight so you can see how movement and proactive this raiding in Final Fantasy XIV actually is.
Okay. Already get a stack. Make sure you're in the start.
Careful, buddy.
Normal raid life.
So in short, I think that raiding in Guild Wars 2 so far, and I've only done one boss, I cannot wait to figure out different strategies and lead this myself because it's so weird having somebody else do callouts because I literally call out every single little thing. But I feel like I'm getting my WoW fix with Guild Wars 2. I have the trash, I have more reactive type fights. You could argue that there's a little bit of a dance, but not as much as what I've seen in Final Fantasy XIV. Each room so far has been different. The ways to get to the next boss room is different. I mean, having to soak a bunch of orbs while kiting around all of these ghosts, or getting to another area that has a jump puzzle and having people stand on little switches and having to fight things themselves to get to the next boss. I'm told Gorseval actually has you use gliders essentially, and you have to have the updraft mastery to get the fight done. So I'm really excited for that, and I had a ton of fun. I would say that because of this, like I said, it's more reactive than proactive. But after putting together this video, I also realized how much I missed raiding in 14, so you guys will probably see that in Endwalker at the end of this year. I'll probably post those videos, but I had a lot of fun. I can't wait to do more. I can't wait to post more first kills and enjoy the rest of this first kill.
Do you see? I did that. Short.
And now we should be able to phase boss here.
Fuck.
Alright, phase boss, go to your spots. Joanna, you're almost dead.
I'm a druid, I'm fine.
We're all fine.
Get in the green, blue.
Water.
Alright, CC blue.
Then off.
DPS green. Try to use light CC on the Green Guardian here, guys, so that way we can hard CC onto the actual Veil Guardian.
Now, sucker.
Alright, now stack up on me, blue people. Can we knock back the Seeker again? Okay.
I have a pole, I can pull it.
Please don't. And now CC Red Guardian. Use light CC on Red Guardian if you can. Alright, now everyone back to Green Star. Everyone over to Green Star. Remember, we have to out-heal this.
Nothing.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Tank
Sorry.
back over here. Alright, 3, 2, 1. CC now heal. Alright, now move over to Arrow. Move over to Arrow. Get revives and move over to Arrow.
Feel cold.
Get the green behind us. Get the green behind us. We need a knockback before the red orb.
Got it.
Solid.
Okay, now move over to square. Move over to square.
I got teleported.
Get this green in front of us. Get this green in front of us. CC boss fast. Really fast. Alright, now move over to a star again. Move over to star again. We're gonna have to out-heal this next green that comes in.
Fire. Do my bidding. Give up yet? I'm here.
Move over to Arrow. We're gonna have to out-heal again.
Fuck.
Feel cold.
Dodge out of those. CC boss fast.
Clutch
CC boss
as
super fast.
fuck.
Alright, move over to square, square. We're gonna have to out-heal this one again. This should be the last screen. And now full DPS on boss. Non-stop DPS on boss. We can kill here.
Ah. That last blue,
got it.
that last blue. Did you guys see that fucking never mind, you guys probably don't want to know, but I got teleported like across the map, targeted the boss, and rode the lightning across the goddamn map and didn't die. It was the funniest fucking thing. I hope somebody clipped it. Oh my, I was like, yeah, CC. Oh shit. Like I waited for my CC to go off because at the time all I had was like my jump, and the moment I fell, I got ported across the map, and then I'm like, fuck, rode the lightning in, got out my water elemental, and just healed.